I think it's pretty clear as to why Sonic the Hedgehog 2006 changed the franchise forever. I mean, it was only 1 month ago that I posted what will hopefully stay my longest game review on Sonic 06. Yeah, I don't want to have the reputation of someone who goes over media so obsessively that the real point of the matter is completely lost in the shuffle. I like to keep my current stuff as concise as possible. But anyway, do I think the Sonic the Hedgehog series deserved to die after Sonic 06 was released? I mean, I'm glad it didn't, but it probably did have that fate coming. The series is on a path of alienating its older fans, and then when you get a game as positively anticipated as Sonic 06 be so terrible with long loading screens, a plethora of other technical problems, and just blatantly unfinished game design, and you have one of the worst and most hated video games of all time. Plenty of other franchises went dormant when they got games as legendary as Sonic 06 was and still is. But the Blue Hedgehog managed to still stay alive after the fact because in the time since, there's been a multitude of other Sonic games and spin-offs and merchandise and cartoons released for the Blue Bastard. And that's because while critics and older fans with a voice on the internet might have hated the games Sega was making, they still sold incredibly well because Sonic fans are as loyal as they come, despite the complaining and because the kids playing Sonic 06 on their 360 would not even know it sucks. The mid-2000s were a different time for gaming. The days of the 6th generation of consoles were over. It was now time for the next generational leap, the PlayStation 3, the Xbox 360, and the Nintendo Wii. What made things different back then was that the PS3 and the 360 were more powerful than older systems due to their ability to produce games in high definition, 720p. In terms of sales and multiplats, the GameCube was one of Nintendo's lesser popular consoles. I can only assume that it had something to do with the mini-disc format compared to the DVD of the competition, and that gaming was trending towards more mature stuff, and Nintendo didn't offer a lot in that area. For their next generation system, they decided to play into their family appeal by making a console that appealed to a broader demographic. With games like Wii Sports, you, hardcore gaming guy, your grandmother, and your little sister can all play and have fun. The Wii wasn't even capable of high definition, each of its games topping out at 480p. I'd say it worked. For the most part. We all know the Wii was a money printer, but it quickly fell behind as the biggest multi-platform games for the 360 and the PS3 would either get a watered-down port or just not be on the console at all. The power difference between the other two consoles and the Wii was just too great. This also set Nintendo behind in the processing power conversation, and they still haven't caught up to this day. Nintendo didn't think that HD would really make a big difference in the market, and they were wrong about that. But anyway, the edge that they did try to bring to the Wii was shaking up the traditional video game control model by introducing the Wii Remote, the controller for the console that allows you to move your arms in tandem with the buttons on the thing to create more immersive games. Didn't always work, but it added to the simplicity I was just talking about. So how did this affect Sonic? Well, Sonic 06 was set to be ported to the Wii. This was before they found out that the Wii was not nearly as powerful as the other consoles. While they could have probably downgraded the game in terms of graphics just enough to squeeze the thing onto the Wii, it would have taken longer than the overlords at Sega were willing to wait, so they took even more staff away from the desperately needing Sonic 06 and had them make an entirely new game for the Wii to come out closer to the launch for that platform. This is part of why I don't like to laugh at Sonic 06. It's fucking tragic. The game probably started development while Sonic Team was still working on Shadow the Hedgehog, and then while dealing with the hardware gap and porting process between the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, Yuji Naka, one of the people who spearheaded the Sonic franchise, had resigned from Sega, leaving the project without him. While dealing with their massive vision and time constraints from Sega, they had to lose staff members so they can make the Wii game. You can criticize Sonic Team for trying to do as much with 06 as they did with the limited time they had, but I just don't. If the game got delayed another year, I don't know if it would be P06 good, but it certainly would have been better. Despite the limitations, the team behind the new game had an interesting idea. They wanted to take Sonic and bring him into a fantasy setting, specifically the world of the Arabian Nights. Out of left field, certainly, but it's interesting to say the least. The final product of this Arabian Nights-inspired adventure combined with the Wii Remote controls was 2007's Sonic and the Secret Rings. Critically, Secret Rings was the victim, or rather the benefactor, of what I'm now going to coin as the Secret Rings effect. This effect can be seen in my review of Batman and Mr. Freeze Sub-Zero, where the film was going to be released as an animated promotional piece for Batman and Robin, but was delayed to avoid that film's scathing reception. Sonic and the Secret Rings sold incredibly well, something we'll have to take note of for all the Wii Sonic games, but for right now, it's important to note what exactly was being said about this game. The reviews were overall average for this one, but that's the thing. Each of these reviewers were playing a new Sonic game literally only a couple of months after Sonic 06 came out. Remember what I said in the 06 review? That game marked a turning point in the series' history. I can't say Sonic was universally loved prior to this, however, I can say that the act of recapping how bad Sonic has had it since going 3D became a mainstay of Sonic reviews after 06 was released, and this effect can be seen as early as Secret Rings, where its flaws are a lot less obvious than Sonic 06.
Sonic and the Secret Rings for the Wii, and this is very different from the Sonic the Hedgehog game that crashed and burned on the PlayStation 3 at Xbox 360.
Personally, I have a lot of memories of this one. I'm pretty sure this was the first Sonic game I was actively excited for, because before this, I'd find out about a Sonic game because it was at the store or gifted to me. With Secret Rings, I saw the commercials for it, and from there, would speculate about what the story was going to be. I must repeat, when I was a kid, my largest amount of hype for a Sonic game was the story, even over the gameplay. Sonic and the Secret Rings was also a distinct memory for me because of the console switch from 6th gen to 7th gen I just talked about. I had to learn that Sonic and the Secret Rings was not going to be on the PlayStation 2. If I wanted to play this one, it would have to be when I had a Wii. When I actually got the game, it was the Target exclusive version that came with a DVD that had some Archie comic stuff based on the game inside. Not that this really plays a part in the review, but I'm just trying to share the nostalgia I have for this game. And I found that disc in the basement last year, having completely forgotten it was even a thing. When I actually played the game, I literally didn't even know that you had to play it with the Wii remote on its side, despite the game showing you that multiple times. I was 6 years old when this game came out. I was paying zero attention to whatever this was supposed to mean. I completed the Lost Prologue, Sand Oasis, and Dinosaur Jungle with the Wii remote upright. Don't ask how, I have no idea how I could possibly power through that much frustration. I never beat this game as a kid because, well, for reasons we'll get into. But I did go back to and clear it around the start of 2013, which brings me to playing Secret Rings today. In between 2013 and now, I did play through this game once in 2014, but beyond that, I played it in little bits and pieces, which is probably where you heard me say that Secret Rings was a guilty pleasure game in my review of Sonic Advance 2. That's the thing. It's a guilty pleasure because I think this game is totally garbage. Yeah, cat's out of the bag. Well, I guess it was when you saw the title. I, of course, appreciate things about Secret Rings. I mean, it's like 06 in that sense, but the difference is that I don't feel guilt enjoying what I enjoy about the gameplay of 06. But in Secret Rings, I know what to do. I've been playing this game for most of my life, but I just don't like this game, and I definitely think it's one of the worst Sonic games released. And that starts at the beginning. Sonic is seen sleeping in his house when a genie of the ring comes to life in the real world. Believe me, weirder things have happened. The genie is called Shara and tells Sonic that the world of the Arabian Nights is under threat from an evil genie called the Eraser Jinn. Like, the book of the Arabian Nights is itself a living, breathing world. And Eraser Jinn is erasing all the stories from within so that he can be released into the real world. Shara asks for Sonic's help as she transports him inside the story, entering us into the first area, the Lost Prologue. The concept behind this stage was to place us in the world between the real world and the story, evidently showing us how much danger was drawing near since the ground you run on is a page of text that's erasing as you go along it. That's neat, I suppose, but the Lost Prologue doesn't even really count as a stage in the game because it's a tutorial segment. Sonic Heroes had one in Team Rose's campaign, but I always start with Team Sonic, so it won't necessarily be the first thing you see when playing the game. Heroes and Secret Rings both have more unconventional mechanics by Sonic standards, so I do understand why they would put in a tutorial stage. But I just think this area is such a slog to get through whenever I come back to this game because it takes forever to get through. And that's only because they segmented this stage into several mini stages. Whenever a new mechanic gets added to the game, you can try it out in the Lost Prologue, but to start you have 8 missions you must play that teach you the basics. Moving left to right, jumping, hopping, air dashing, homing, attacking, backwalking, braking, and grinding. Each segmented by loading screens and other pace breakers. The backwalking one just being the worst. I can do it fine in the main game, but with this camera angle, I have no idea what I'm doing wrong.
Keep the Wii remote tilted back toward yourself to back up.
That clip really looks like I'm fucking it up big time, but I swear, I was doing it normally, and something about that camera angle was screwing with the game. On the subject of responsive controls, that obviously brings up the question of how I played the game for the video. For the main games, I've tried to have the highest quality footage possible, which is why I actually used the recently decompiled remasters of Sonic 1, 2, and CD to re-record the games I had to use BlueStacks to get footage of prior. I think the difference in clarity is striking. Props to the guy who gave us this great gift that Sega is, I don't know, not interested in giving us. For this game, you can play it on Dolphin with 60 FPS, which I did do. I have a good amount of footage for that. And while you can play games on Dolphin with the Wii Remote, I decided to use that footage as complimentary. For my main playthrough, I busted out my actual Wii with the sensor bar and the Wii Remote just to make sure everything I say today is accurate to the intended Secret Rings experience. After slogging through the Lost Prologue, Sonic and Shara actually encounter the Eraser Djinn, who says he's looking for the 7 world rings and that Shara needs to collect them for him. To increase the stakes of the demand, he shoots Shara with a life-draining fire blast that Sonic gets in the way of. Now Sonic has a fire on his chest, and when it goes out, he'll die. So he needs to collect the 7 world rings in the hopes of getting that curse removed, setting up the journey proper. So what's the main gimmick of Sonic and the Secret Rings? Well, as far as levels are concerned, you play through Sand Oasis, Dinosaur Jungle, Evil Foundry, Levitated Ruin, Pirate Storm, Skeleton Dome, and Night Palace. I can't really do a segment on the level design of Secret Rings like I could in the previous games because this game is much different than the previous ones. What really makes each stage unique from one another is the set dressing. In Secret Rings, Sonic moves forward automatically and it's your job to navigate him through the obstacles each level provides. Whether that be crumbling pillars in Levitated Ruin, dinosaurs chasing you in Dinosaur Jungle, Cannonball Fire in Pirate Storm, or the various bits of machinery in Evil Foundry. When talking about the overall game, this is the best part of Secret Rings. To create these different environments, the developers took inspiration from various games like God of War, Shadow of the Colossus, and Prince of Persia. Of course, Sand Oasis is what you'd expect from an Arabian Nights adventure, but look at Dinosaur Jungle. Sonic games have had jungles before, but not one straight out of the Mesozoic. Sonic games have also had factory levels before, but not like Evil Foundry where the entire place is possessed by evil spirits, including the machinery itself. It's really easy to say that you can't come up with new levels for Sonic games, because everything has been done before. However, I think it's really cool when they mix and match old ideas, recontextualizing them. Sonic Advance 3 had Ocean Base, and Sonic 06 adapted an idea like that for Aquatic Base, thus creating the motif of Underwater Lab. It was completely new and it came from mixing old ideas, water, and labs. You may have played Skydeck in Sonic Adventure, which took place on the Egg Carrier, but have you played Levitated Ruin, a flying prison that's a moving manta ray with statues and pillars on top, including gargoyles that come to life and turn you to stone? The art direction in this game is absolutely fantastic. I could not give that enough praise. Now, the actual graphics, those have aged a little bit. Flat grass, flat sand, flat wood, those are the kinds of things I notice when talking about visuals that don't hold up the best. I mean, every surface feels flat to play on despite being completely different parts of land. The models aren't very expressive either, which is why we don't see them from the front all that often. The water in Dinosaur Jungle looks absolutely terrible, a flat line that has an effect going over it when Sonic's riding the log. The entire game world just feels very washed out and devoid of color. Mario Galaxy, also released on the Wii the same year as Secret Rings came out, looks a lot better. The cutscenes are done via this withered storybook art direction, which I think is really cool. Maybe the washed out hue over it's a step too far, making the illustrations look old, but I really appreciate these cutscenes regardless. Back to the game, when Sonic's interaction with the level design is not what the thrust of the gameplay is, then it's all up to the set pieces. Here I think Secret Rings also shines. Right at the start of Dinosaur Jungle, you'll be getting chased by a herd of dinos, and right when you think you're safe,
That was a close one.
Sonic, can't you swim?
or in Pirate Storm when you're riding debris as a surfboard in the water right as giant waves are coming, or shooting yourself out of a cannon and riding Cannonball. All the moments like that in Secret Rings are the game at its absolute best. If it was a varied amount of quality set pieces, this would be a pretty dope game. But the problems begin with repetition. I'm not sure how much budget and time Sonic Team's B division had to make this game, but one of the clearest signs they're making do with what they had can be seen in the levels themselves. Every single stage has roughly 2 actual levels to play, like how Sand Oasis has the main stage where the first mission takes place, and then there's this indoor track area that you do missions in. Because of this, you'll see the same gameplay segments again and again. I just praised the part in Dinosaur Jungle where you get chased by the dinosaurs at the beginning, resulting in falling off a bridge into the river. Now how cool is it the second time in a completely different mission played beat for beat? I do suppose they had to get creative with their content reuse, like how this stretch of Sand Oasis is played backwards for a different mission. Levitated Ruin also repeating the same set pieces over and over, like chasing this gargoyle on a light trail in the sky, dealing with the wind making it hard to move forward, and awkwardly navigating these 2D sections. It's certainly not that Sonic games have never reused assets before, but this game is especially guilty because it's plainly evident that each world doesn't have that much content to offer, so they take full advantage of the space by making you play it multiple times in one playthrough. because the progression in Secret Rings is mission-based. Here we see some of the stupidest gameplay segments in Sonic history, as the game seems to have a large obsession with doing things that are mundane, like not breaking jars, collecting rings, or collecting rings in a chain where you have a limited amount of time to get the next one before you must start again. Racing a light spirit to the goal, this terrible one about matching dinosaur eggs in the dinosaur jungle. Beating a certain number of enemies, not beating any enemies at all, not getting defeated, not taking any damage, period. And then more baffling ones that seemed exclusively interested in wasting time, like the mission titled Defeat One Enemy.
Just made it!
I just wrote out a list of common missions in this game because even at that, the game is still repeating itself countless times. If I were to think of Secret Rings missions, my mind draws a blank on most of them because they're pretty repetitive. Only really remembering the ones that were totally trite, like dealing with those awkward controls and camera angles or trying to sort out dinosaur eggs, or battling the 40 Thieves and the camera in Skeleton Dome, or not taking damage during a barrage of cannonball fire in Pirate Storm. You could argue that a lot of these missions are optional, which I think is true, but that leads to another problem. The structure of this game is a mess. Each world has a list of missions that gradually unlock with more missions done. There's no way of knowing which missions are mandatory and which are optional, so the only way to find out is by playing all of them. When I was a kid, I suppose I appreciated the puzzle box-like storytelling, as this mission might unlock a new cutscene and unlockable, but it really doesn't make for an effective campaign. I mean, when I was a kid, I beat Sonic Heroes and Shadow the Hedgehog and Sonic 06, but I never beat Sonic in the Secret Rings, and you wonder why? Because of the fact that I don't know what mission to play. In a story context, these different missions unlocking different things completely messes with the pacing of the story. Like how we try to meet King Shahryar in the first mission of Sand Oasis, but he gets captured by the Eraser Djinn, and while I suppose our objective is to track him down and rescue him, but that's the first mission of Dinosaur Jungle. It took another 4 missions to even unlock Dinosaur Jungle in the first place. I kept playing missions in Sand Oasis after that anyway because of the fact that I already knew that in this stage there was a world ring hidden behind a boss fight, and might as well get that over with before continuing the story. The first mission of Dinosaur Jungle has a similar problem. I finish the stage, save the king, and find out that the Eraser Djinn is headed for the Evil Foundry, the next world. However, I don't unlock that for another several missions. You go there, after one mission you need to go back to Sand Oasis for a mission to get a cutscene that unlocks Levitated Ruin, where like 2 stages of that unlock Pirate Storm, and you need to keep playing missions in Evil Foundry, Levitated Ruin, and Pirate Storm to get the world rings and progress the story. But it's so unclear what you should be doing, and I think that's a massive problem. And then playing the missions is garbage anyway because of the controls. Secret Rings uses the Wii Remote on its side, and you must move the Wii Remote left and right to maneuver Sonic around obstacles using the 1 button to brake and the 2 button to jump. The longer you hold down the 2 button, the longer the jump time will be. This game also introduces a reticle for the homing attack, something that's gone to good use in the main games. It being a downright requirement in this game since you aren't in total control of your jump trajectory, so now when you're in range for a homing attack, the enemy will display that and you must shake the Wii Remote in order to attack them. The problem with the controls isn't on paper, it's the execution. When playing the game on Dolphin with an Xbox One controller, replacing the Wii Remote movement with the analog stick, it's really not that bad. The Wii Remote's responsiveness really wasn't the problem here in the first place. When it comes to controlling Sonic, that is. This game also just has some blatantly garbage gameplay that no controller could possibly save, like grinding on rails, which might be the worst version of grinding on rails in the history of Sonic the Hedgehog. I mean, they built in a feature for how you can switch rails, but every time you do it, it feels completely inconsistent and terrible. But overall, the Wii Remote's responsiveness really wasn't the problem here. When you first start playing Secret Rings, you'll probably notice that Sonic feels a little sluggish to play as, like the act of moving the Wii Remote from left to right feels delayed between the input and the action taking place. Believe me when I say this was by design. Secret Rings includes a full level up system straight out of an RPG. They really got lazy with this one. By the end, Sonic is a completely different character to play as than he was at the start. Perhaps it's supposed to feel like a progression in your skills, but I don't really feel like that. Here's my problem summed up. I can only assume, to teach players how the level up system works, and to make it more useful, a lot of basic necessities Sonic has had in previous games are turned into unlockables. When you level up, you get more skill points and different attributes to add to Sonic, like jump canceling, doing damage to enemies. or controlling the trajectory of an air dash. Each ability costs a certain number of skill points, so you have to decide which you want to take with you into a stage. You can create 4 different attribute presets, and you can choose between them to fit your various needs for each stage. But as I was saying, earlier in the level up system, you'll unlock things like reduced lag time between homing attacks, because at default you must wait for the entire rebound animation to be complete before striking again. Then there's moves that I feel like Sonic can't go without, like the backflip. Well, you can see here in the footage that I'm realizing at the start of the game that I can't do it yet. Unlocking moves that feel essential can be argued as a pro or con for leveling up, and I certainly have no problem with unlocking abilities like Speed Break and Time Break, abilities triggered by pressing up or down on the D-pad. The former allowing Sonic to boost at breakneck speed, and the latter slowing down time to, in theory, allow you better reaction time, but the control is still pretty awful, so yeah. Where I completely draw the line is at the sluggish movement I talked about earlier. It is a level up to make ground control smoother. There are several upgrades where the functionality boils down to making Sonic control less terribly. That is, well, it's what I said 41 words ago, where I draw the line. Sure, you can turn Sonic from a sluggish disaster into moving at the speed of light by the end, but I think the need to hinder the player's movement capabilities just shows that this game did not get enough time in the oven to flesh out this whole RPG system. This also affects the ranking system, as like Sonic Advance 3, this game grades you with a gold, silver, and bronze medal at the end of every stage. Through no fault of your own, a player just starting out with this game cannot get a gold star in Sand Oasis's first mission. You're just too slow to get through the stage in a quick manner. But come back with all those upgrades and it's nearly impossible to not get a gold star. That doesn't feel like progress to me, it just feels arbitrary. You also can't redeem this game just by leveling Sonic up anyway. This game is a prime example of a pretty regular Sonic series problem. The early levels show off the difference a fully powered Sonic can make. Now when you first play the early stages of the game, you have to deal with a sub-functioning Sonic. But then the later levels try to introduce more challenging level design into the mix, like the do-or-die segments of Pirate Storm and the Skeleton Dome, or in Night Palace as these spears coming from God knows where will knock out the ground you're running on. With the speed granted by higher levels, you just can't win here. The whole game is just not fun to play, made slightly worse by how long it takes to get from stage to stage. Nitpick, I know, but I really could not get that out of my mind the further I went through this game. To lighten the mood, as is almost obligatory for a Sonic game, the soundtrack is absolute fire in this. This game being the second Sonic game the vocalist Rumblebee got to work on, getting his start from the vocals of Sonic Riders. This time he did almost all the music, as pretty much every song in Secret Rings is a lyrical component, and this is just my kind of jam material with the drums beating and the guitars. The adrenaline is just really high in this soundtrack. But even this has a problem. The music's great in Secret Rings, but I feel like they could have used more music. Every stage has only one track to go around. The bosses will have new tracks, and the game has the main theme, 7 Rings in Hand, and that's it. It gets a bit repetitive, but the level themes have nothing on how obnoxious 7 Rings in Hand is by the end of the game. The Wii menu opens on a riff of it, it's the main menu theme, it's the closing theme of every stage.
Easy. Too easy. No such thing as fate for those who speed. A path at a time instead of just living it.
It's not like SA2 where you get different riffs of Live and Learn that lead up to hearing it in full during the final boss fight. In this game, the MP3 of 7 Rings in Hand is just dropped in at every chance they get. To escape from that noise, let's go to this menu called Party Mode. We gotta give me some credit for that horrifically bad transition. Yeah, as if Sonic Team in the mid-2000s wasn't enough of a resource management nightmare, somebody came up with the idea of getting a completely different studio involved to come in and design a multiplayer mode. Throughout the campaign, you'll collect Fire Souls, and these Fire Souls unlock things for the multiplayer like extra modes and extra characters. You start with Sonic, Tails, Amy, and Knuckles, but unlock Shadow, Cream, Blaze, and Silver. This is an entire party game mode where 4 players will compete in various competitions, and the leader will move the most amount of spaces forward trying to reach the treasure at the end. It's honestly not a terrible way to spend your time if you have friends. Almost every minigame requires you to motion mash, however, the act of friendly competition is always fun, so it's not really a bad mode. It just didn't need to be in the game that was clearly having a problem with content as it was. In a hypothetical scenario where my friends and I have, for some reason, decided we aren't playing Mario Party, and need to do a Sonic multiplayer experience, then I'd gladly pick Secret Rings as multiplayer over Sonic Shuffle, the actual Sonic Party game. But still, it's just a not very needed feature. This whole review hasn't really brought much attention to the story of Secret Rings, because I don't think the gameplay of this game is complicated enough to where I can weave in and out of topics like I did in the Adventure era videos. Having said that, I think the story in this game is neat. I mean, this is a game where Sonic says,
It might even open the gates of hell!
but you know me, that sort of thing doesn't really faze me. I realize, though, I don't really have that much to say on the plot this time around, and that's just because this is ultimately a side story. Sonic shows up in a new world, a story that is already unfolding, and solves the crisis and goes home. Throughout the journey, you'll meet Sonic characters as stand-ins for the Arabian Nights characters. Ali Baba taking the form of Tails, King Shahryar taking the form of Dr. Eggman, and Sinbad taking the shape of Knuckles, with the game pulling the same routine with each and every one of them. But regardless, I think the dialogue can be really witty.
Okay, so about the fire genie then. Why not just try splashing some water on him?
Wow, the wisdom of Sinbad of the Seven Seas, the adventurer of adventurers.
The cutscene voice acting is pretty good this time around. It's a large step up from previous 4Kids era games, but the in-game delivery being less so. The game really stresses the relationship between Sonic and Shara. I think these two, only a couple months removed from Sonic 06, shows a much better execution of what Sonic and Elise could have been. Sonic promises Shara that they're going to get through this, save the day, have fun, and be good friends, and for that reason, I think having the two of them talk during the gameplay and react to what's going on in the cutscenes is good. There really isn't any conflict or banter that goes on between the two of them that's especially interesting, though, because Shara is not an interesting character on her own, but I just think Sonic's readiness to dive into a new adventure and put his life on the line for people he trusts is great characterization. The Eraser Djinn being an excellently hammy villain. He's responsible for the life or death predicament Sonic is in, and doesn't even really take Sonic seriously, calling him a rat on 2 separate occasions before the final boss.
You must be that blue rat that just got added to the story.
Don't you know anything? I'm not a rat, I'm a hedgehog.
You, blue rat! Have you gathered the 7 rings yet?
And enough of that rat stuff! Seriously, I'm a hedgehog! Hedgehog!
He's the cause of all the enemies you fight, the bosses you encounter, and the circumstances for the people you save throughout. He has a presence in the story despite not being seen that many times. He also has a small backstory. The Eraser Djinn is actually the genie from Aladdin and is now setting out to destroy the stories of the Arabian Nights because he got sick of granting wishes for all eternity. Writing all that down just goes to show this really is a bizarre premise for a Sonic game, but that's just why I find the plot so endearing. An Eggman stand-in is there for 2 cutscenes, but the plot holds up with Sonic just interacting with new characters. They did a great job building up to the finale here, where you fight Eraser and then fake ending. This part really annoyed me. I got all 7 rings before doing the Eraser boss fight, and I still had to see the non-ending where he goes behind a door that needs 7 rings in order to open it. And then a full, really long credit scene plays out. I've never even commented on this before, but in SA1, 2, Hero, Shadow, and 06, each of the campaigns would come with credits. With these being separate campaigns with beginnings, middles, and endings, credits isn't that bad. When I was just in the mood to finish the game, 4 minutes of Twitter surfing was not my idea of time well spent. When that's finally done, we can play the final boss proper. Here we get a surprising moment where Shara is tempted to join with the Eraser Djinn, suggesting that the true plan was for Shara to use Sonic to get the rings all along, since she and the other characters from inside the story can't touch them, but Sonic can because he's from the real world. But Shara actually does care about Sonic because their journey together did mean something, shown by her sacrificing herself to save Sonic from Eraser right after he gets the rings. The 7 world rings control various emotions, and Sonic then absorbs the rings of rage, sadness, and hatred, heightening his current emotions, transforming him into Dark Spine Sonic, giving him the powers to battle the Eraser's final form.
The stories of this world are mine!
If this is your world, then it's a world that I don't want any part of.
Of course, we needed to play Seven Rings in Hand one last time before the credits rolled. You know, they had to get that one in, didn't they? Dark Spine Sonic is supposed to be a transformation where Sonic is filled with rage and all that, but damn does the English voice acting not sell it. The Japanese dub gets this much better, but in English, it just sounds like Jason Griffith is trying way too hard, ultimately producing a prototype werehog voice rather than what's supposed to be portraying. But that's not close to my only problem. The final boss is garbage. Eraser in his final form, Alfuela Walela, is just spamming attacks all over the screen. I usually just die before I even know what's going on. You need to fill up the soul gauge to use the aforementioned ability, Speed Break, in order to get in close, but to do that requires you jerking off the Wii Remote until the bar is full. It's funny, but like, I don't think a Sonic final boss hurting my elbows is a good thing. Like, what the fuck were they thinking? Clearly they knew you'd die fighting this boss fight because it only takes 2 hits to beat. It's just the amount of deaths and shaking the damn Wii Remote will make you feel like you spent 10 minutes on this.
Your tale is finished, Eraser. Next time, try writing a better story.
Even if the last boss fight is awful, at the very least, the ending's a really good scene, as Sonic seals Eraser Jin back in his lamp for good this time, demanding that he bring Shara back to life, and returning the Arabian Nights back to the way they were before he goes back in the lamp.
I cannot be denied by that filthy rat! Why?
I told you, I'm not a rat. I'm a hedgehog.
That's pretty fucking based, what can I say? Ending the game with another payoff for a bad joke from the first cutscene. And on that note, Sonic continues his Arabian Nights adventures with Shara, Alibaba, and Sinbad, eventually returning home, concluding the latest story in the Arabian Nights, Sonic and the Secret Rings. The credits being joined by the vocal theme Worth a Chance, one that emphasizes the friendship between Sonic and Shara like My Destiny did in Sonic 06. It's not really on my list of favorite Sonic vocals, but it's a good one and fits the ending of the game. Not much more I can ask for. As far as concluding this review is concerned, I don't really have much else to add. I appreciate all the non-gameplay elements of Sonic and the Secret Rings, but when the gameplay itself is revolting, I just don't think that's important. I realize a lot of people feel that way about what I had to say about Sonic 06, but what can I say? I just think the gameplay of 06 was built on a really good foundation that didn't get to be finished. In the case of Secret Rings, I think this game could have used more dev time to make more stages and more set pieces, but the difference is I think that sort of thing is beyond the scope of the final game. I think fixing Sonic 06 is far more reachable a goal. I just appreciate 06 in a way I don't Shadow the Hedgehog or Secret Rings. I just think that this game sucks, despite the fact that I think everything it does that's not gameplay is really well done. And nostalgia can't just be the root of why I enjoy Sonic 06. Like I said, Shadow was my first 3D Sonic game, and I spent a bunch of time on Secret Rings back in the day as a kid. I can play through Secret Rings from start to finish without a great deal of trouble coming from it, but that doesn't save it from my just saying, yeah, this game wasn't so good, and that's just my take. It was very interesting to play Secret Rings again and see a Sonic game with a premise so far removed from the usual mold. On the subject of mold, that's the gameplay, rotted and disgusting. I feel like saying any more would be covering the same thing ad nauseum. This game could have been really cool, had a lot of interesting ideas and potential, but the execution is just not good.